Hello, Ken.
Hi, Cindy. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
Hi, everybody.
Hello,
Who's that?
Yvonne? Can you hear
Oh,
me?
Yvonne. Oh, there's Yvonne. Hi.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
We can. I
Okay.
can.
And Janet, I was muted.
Oh, Janet. Hey, good to see you.
Video and audio.
We got your video.
No, I'm gonna have to start combing my hair and put on clean clothes.
And then, Cindy, we also have Eric Giordano here. He's going to help assist me with the drafting of the plan. He's
Super.
working with PPC.
That's who I didn't recognize. His name is Eric. Is that what you said?
Yep, Eric Giordano. It's my name.
Hi, Eric.
Yep. I guess today I'm just kind of sitting in and just getting a sense of getting the update. I've been talked with Ken yesterday to kind of get the update, but just going to see where we're at. What you guys been working on?
You're muted, Ed. You're muted. Hi, Rini. You're muted, Rini.
I don't even see Rini.
I see Rini, and Ed, you're still muted.
There's Ed.
That should be
No.
unmuted.
Hear me now, Cindy?
There you go. Yep.
And Brittany's muted still.
Hello.
Oh, there she is.
Where's Brittany? Oh, there you are. Hi. Hi. Who are we waiting for? Hi, Janet.
Hi,
How you doing?
I'm doing well. At least I'm here.
Good.
My image is very fuzzy, but that's okay.
I still can see you.
Yeah, we're making progress.
Yep.
Yeah, I think of everybody that had responded positively, I think is here, so we might as well go ahead and start the meeting.
Great.
So do we have a chair that will lead the meeting or?
Yeah, it's basically me, so
Okay.
I will just try to quicken the evening and make it productive for all of us. So I'll just turn it over to you, Ken, so you can kind of catch up a little bit with us and get us on the right track so we can move ahead and finish this up.
Great. Good evening, everyone. And I'll let people in as they start to pop up on the screen if there is any member from the public that decides to join. My name is Ken Kamiya. I'm with Pioneer Valley Planning Commission. You probably saw me if you were at the December meeting with Emily when we did that engagement in December. So Emily is going to be the person that I, will relay any questions to during this process as she's working on other projects at the moment. I, will definitely utilize her. And as I mentioned, Eric Giordano, who is sitting on this call, will also assist me with some of the draft writing. So knowing, I think, where we left off and kind of speaking to Ed with regards to some things that he gave to me today. I'm not sure, Ed, if there was any update in regards to your request for an extension of the MVP money.
Haven't heard back yet, but I don't see why they wouldn't, but I have not had an answer one way or the other so far.
Okay, so either way, that fund is supposed to end June 30th. So we are gonna try to do as much as we can until we hear, to figure out what product we'll have for you at the end of that time, unless we are granted that extension. So I think where we left off, based on communication that I gave to Ed, was that there was going to be a review by the committee of the first 4 sections of the draft plan. And then there was going to be a discussion of section 5, which is the protected lands, and I don't know if in the process of you meeting as the open space committee, if there has been discussion with regards to components of the open space and rec plan that you can share with us as we proceed. And probably, as I was speaking to Eric yesterday and suggesting that this is going to be a robust amount of writing in the next couple of weeks to get something to you to submit for approval, should the extension not be granted, but get you something as complete as possible. I know that that the other sections will be probably have some context based on some of the exercises you've done last year. But I guess, this for Eric and I are to listen to the committee and see what types of progress you made in some of those tests after the last meeting, and then go from there and come up with a plan to probably meet very regularly over the next 4 weeks, 6 weeks, and figure out what those tests are going to look like, and understanding that we are at the moment under some time crunch.
And some of the members have been working on their sections, so if anyone wants to bring Ken up to speed on some of the work you've done, please go ahead and do that.
I guess I'll begin. I read the whole plan, and of course, I think one of the first things is it's a small item, but it certainly makes it difficult to review this plan on a Zoom meeting. There are no numbered pages.
Okay.
Okay. The other thing I'm going to just toss right out there, because I have read the entire thing. And I did find a great deal of redundancy, geologically, hydrologically, topographically. Just repetition, repetition, repetition. So I'm just tossing that out there. Numbered pages and the repetition.
Very good. I think that's probably a first step for us, at least when you start reviewing this earnestly, is to number those pages so that we are, if we are convening in this evening slot, or maybe there is a group of you or a pair of you that may want to have any sort of afternoon meetings to discuss progress that Eric and I will be doing on the plan, we can discuss that. But Yvonne, thank you for those notes. I was speaking to Emily with regards to the previous update in 2012, and she did say that it was a thick plan. And I think she did say that there was, and she agreed with you with regards to some of the redundancies within the plan, and that there was a component of taking language from the master plan and putting it into this plan. So the OSRP and the master plan are supposed to exist differently. Obviously, one can inform the other, but you want to probably try to minimize any redundancy, just for ease of reading, as you pointed out, Yvonne.
And Cindy and I have talked a little bit about it, and the other thing is to simplify the language. It should be readable and comprehensible. It's just needs to be, the ideas and the concepts need to be expressed in ways that residents can understand. And I think some of it is very, very complicated and very convoluted. It's
Okay.
not clear.
Good point.
And apropos to that, I recall Emily saying something like, it's probably overwritten for what we need to do. Perhaps that's because the plan from 2012 was written in some regards concurrent to the master plan, and there was contribution from the same group of people to write that. That was her thinking, and I know Ken, you're pretty familiar with the master plan as well. So the conversation that Francine and I had the other day was, is this the time to kind of pare this down, make it just what it's necessary? I think Brittany, you said something similar to that at the last meeting we had as well. So while you're going to be writing like crazy for the next couple of weeks, getting that kind of down there concisely, so then when there's a new update required in the next several years, not going back to this kind of behemoth situation of an overwritten plan. As far as the section regarding inventory of lands of conservation and recreational interest, the Open Space Committee has been attempting to at least begin to kind of look at what kinds of lands would be of value for not necessarily acquisition, but just conservation. And of course, conservation falls under multiple categories, APR, or CR, and just, landowners should have choices in what they want to do. And we are keenly aware of that, but given the information that came out of the survey that was done at the end of 2019, we know that climate resiliency is something that our community is very interested in and wants to contribute to and needs information about. I'm pretty sure that was on the survey, and I think that's also on the radar of the Open Space Plan, Open Space Committee as well. So we are looking at that, looking for input from every corner that we can think of: Conservation Commission, Recreation, and just to tell you, Eric, and people that don't know this, in the beginning of 2019, Southampton won a grant. It was called the Neighborhood Outreach Grant, and we held 3 different programs. 2 of them were in a room with speakers, and the third one was actually a hike on one of our trails. Not very many people were able to attend, but a lot of landowners came forward to learn about options, whether it's putting their land in chapter or getting conservation restrictions, etc. We believe there's a strong interest in this community to understand those options. There's a lot of what I don't know, maybe Ed can tell me or somebody else, who was given the responsibility of updating Section 5? What was that? Do you remember, Ed?
No, I don't have my notes in front of me. I can't, and I'm not sure if we had gotten that far out either. I remember, I think 2, 3, and 4, but we may not have assigned 5. I'll have to go
5
back.
is largely written. It's at the end of chapter 4. And so every conservation property is outlined in chapter 4. And then, right, Cindy, I was adding the whole thing about the neighborhood project, but it'd be wonderful if you could add a paragraph to that. So at the end of chapter 4, I'm going to have things that need to move to other sections, and that's going to be all of that stuff.
Okay, good. I'm pretty sure our chief assessor too, Martha Leamy, is going to update us on what's currently in chapter. We can also say what has been conserved in these multiple categories. But in addition to that, we can add, at least by assessor map map and lot number, we're not necessarily naming people or addresses, we can indicate what lands, perhaps because they have some, other value, they're abutting other conservation lands, or they have environmental impact considerations, they're wetlands, they're wildlife corridors. There's just all these other considerations that we are becoming very, very aware of, and we want to stay on top of for our town. And maybe Rini, I don't know if you want to add anything to this, because you're on the Open Space Committee as well.
No, not really. I was looking back, reviewing like section 5 while you were talking. So I guess for me, I would like to assume or hope that we're in the middle of a pandemic and that there's a lot of remote work being done, that I can't imagine that they won't allow a little bit more forgiveness of the time. I think for me, it would be great to be able to have the end of this meeting have some goals and some timetables in mind. I know it's a little bit fluid, and I know that there's going to be a lot of like work in the next month or 6 weeks to do a lot of the writing, but it would be great to know that we have some goals in mind, because I think that we might be doing this remotely for a while. So that's what my hope would be.
And out of fairness, Janet, you're also on the Open Space Committee. Did you want to add something to this?
No, I think what you've said is really good. That's great. Thank you.
Okay.
Actually, there is one more thing I wanted to mention, and that is that when the survey was done, I think it was determined that we really didn't get a lot of input from parents of young children, that the schools were, when we talked about Labrie Fields and things like that, there just wasn't a lot of, even though I think we had a pretty good response, I don't think we determined that there was a good response from young families.
You're right, and now it's even more of a challenge to get that response than it was at the time when we held the first kind of gathering.
Yeah, although I do think the schools are reaching out to all these kids electronically. I don't know if that would be an avenue.
It's worth trying.
It could be, but don't forget also last time that survey was supposedly sent out via the schools, or notification of the survey too, so.
Right.
One of the other things that when you brought up Labrie Field, that I found in the report, and of course, because again, the pages are not numbered, so it can be hard to tell you where it is, but you have a regional wildlife habitat map, and then on the following page, you have a paragraph regarding Labrie Field. And I question if that's really happening at all. I mean, that seems quite unlike anything I've heard about Labrie Field before. So that sounds, or to me, as if it comes from an older report, as well as a section that dealt with the Manhan Trail, I think it was. And that isn't happening either. So there's some things in here that I say, is this really happening? I mean, it's a small thing, but on that same page, it talks about the Council on Aging, and it talks about a men's night, not that I know of. So it's just that there are things in here that I wonder if they are really happening.
Yeah, and I think, what usually happens as we draft this, there are probably things that Eric and I, and through discussion with Emily, will find that maybe we'll call out based on just like what you brought up, Yvonne, if there are certain activities or events happening. Obviously we use the previous report as a kind of a baseline. But I think that you probably would expect to see flagging of language, or a consideration to make as we propose the draft for clarifications that you would have more insight on than we would.
As far as process, this is a question. So Ken and Eric, you're going to compile data, start to write the next draft or the next report in a draft form, I guess, and then kind of look back and see what's, I mean, Yvonne's brought up very good points. Some things that you probably didn't off the top of your head know, like there's no men's night or something like that. Is that what the process would be? You're just going to start to work on that and then?
Well, I think, you know, we have context to work on the initial sections. You know, the initial sections are the ones that are probably minimally revised, other than current data and trends that obviously are different than 2012. So, I mean, what I would imagine as we, you know, kind of formulate each section is that through review of this, as similar to other projects that I work on, it would be drafting sections, composing any sort of questions that should be considered or that require a comment from the committee or from the review committee, and then figure out from there how it should read, if there are other considerations that we need to add, and go through that type of review process.
Okay.
I think to Rainey's point, I know that you know, there was discussion, and I remember it from the last meeting in December, and Emily, you know, reminded me, and I think I probably spoke to you, Cindy, in some other occasion with regards to that sort of additional engagement that the committee wanted to do. The thing with the engagement is, you know, it obviously is going to be online. I mean, it could be online should the committee want to somehow explore, you know, incorporating that into also the draft plan. And, you know, we would have to figure out what that meeting could look like, and what the end goal is. I think if we were to possibly present the same thing Emily presented in that December meeting and offer a similar type exercise that she did with the stickers, you know, having to figure out a way to engage in that kind of way is obviously a challenge, you know, having everything being done remotely. But, you know, I think that we could possibly do something to at least re-engage that conversation. Obviously, that's making more work for me to try to plan how we do that, and try to do it, you know, considering the time constraint at the moment. And it is really about this moment and trying to accomplish all that we can within what currently is in the contract with us. So, I mean, that's kind of my perception. I think that the committee was right back in December that, you know, it probably would have been good to maybe engage again in probably a similar presentation. But, you know, considering everything at the moment with regards to convening people and the time constraints, it will be very challenging to do that.
So, you know, Ken knows very well this. The Master Plan Implementation Committee took the message from the last time we presented to the Select Board with the idea of making sure that anything that the Master Plan Implementation Committee did included contribution and ideas from our citizens, from the town at large. So you know, Ken, that we're in the process of kind of redoing that same survey that was done for the master plan. I don't think our community has the stomach for more than one survey.
I would agree with
And
with the survey approach.
Therefore, I'm all for efficiencies here. And what I'm wondering, and are you aware of this, Ed, that we're, that's the process that's happening with the Master Plan Implementation Committee. So I'm wondering if what we need to do is kind of look at what additional information we want for this plan and utilize that same.
Utilize that. Yeah.
Yeah.
What'd you say? I'm sorry.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
And it's going to have to be online. I mean, I love the idea of trying to gather people. I don't think the reality is that we're going to, some people, even if the state opened, some people are going to say, no way, I don't want to be a part of, any kind of public gathering. So I think we need to be thinking about this as some sort of online kind of, approach to gathering the data.
Yeah, and then maybe as one component of that, we try to figure out a way or a means to get it out and maybe get some responses from those younger families to
Right.
fill in that gap.
And the other thing is, if we could make that, once we get there available, there is some information that we're already gathering or planning to gather that meets the needs, in some cases of this report as well.
I think you can definitely find overlap, and I think this is something for the members of the Master Plan Implementation Committee to share with the wider group, possibly incorporating any sort of discussion of capturing those audiences that you felt that you didn't feel contributed,
Right.
at the amount that you wanted them to really get a feel for the young families, with families with young children. So I think that definitely is approach if you were to maybe establish 2 questions that you can put it into that Master Plan Implementation Committee survey that we're currently working on. I think that's possible, and drawing that data. Again, it's a time constraint for any survey type data in a plan. Because usually, the OSRP would need to be reviewed to the consistency of, what is required by EEA, then you often have to give them, a few months to do that. I guess, if we were to maybe create a placeholder or, a paragraph or 2 where you could address some of those needs within the plan, the Open Space Committee can, and through Ed can, and go through the review process before you adopt. That's an idea too. Should the should the survey component be kind of the limiting factor based on the time frame?
So can I just ask a question as far as the sections, okay, 1 to 4 and now 5, where is everything at and what would be like the next step? I know you talked about doing a lot of the writing, taking those sections 1 to 4. Do you feel like what you have is enough to start? I mean, where are we at in terms of revising the sections and getting them sort of updated?
I think, we have enough to at least get the narrative chunk, kind of the background stuff, to get that approved. I want to, convene with Emily and probably ask your insight as to how you felt in revisiting some of the goals, because obviously that's an important part of this process. And if you felt that happened last year, or, you know, you had an ample enough time to discuss and revisit and see where you were with the goals and the objectives that you created in the previous update. You know, because obviously having a plan for moving forward with that, with this committee, is going to be very important as we, you know, finish that. But Rini, I think for the first 4 sections, I think that is, we're able to do that fairly quickly, based on hopefully, you know, if there's any input from the committee, or, you know, what we have to, you know, you've seen at least that initial document, building off that and updating as necessary, updating data as it should be updated. That should be relatively quick. It's kind of the latter half, which is the, you know, ground truthing that we have to do with conservation lands and getting an appropriate inventory of those lands under Section 5, and then also establishing your goals and how, you know, how we achieve them. So I don't know if anyone here maybe can speak to what your perception was of trying to address the previous laid out goals and objectives of the update from 2012. Did you have that conversation last year with Emily in any sort of formal or informal way?
Where is that? Do we have a draft of those?
Yeah, isn't that what we got from the original plan, the 2012 plan?
Right. Right, but I'm just wondering where is the
I
goal?
think Ed has it, right?
I
Ed,
don't know where they are.
What's that?
don't you have that plan that we got from the gentleman who prepared it?
Yeah, I have got that in sections
Yeah, it's
from
quite.
that we handed out before, so.
Yeah, but we do have it.
So can we bring it up right now, like on the website? In the Southampton, I mean, I have all the sections, but I'm just looking for guidance on where it is in the existing document. Because mine's in a lot of pieces here.
It was a very large document.
Yeah, that's why it's in sections.
Yeah.
Right,
But
exactly.
the goals, I'm assuming it would be right in the beginning, right?
Well, no, they're at the end. I think it's
They were at the end.
It's
Yeah.
Section 9, the 7-year action plan. Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah.
At the end of the last update. Section 9, 7-year action plan, many strategies, responsible parties, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
Let me open up.
Oh, are you talking about? I have something that has a page number on it of 150.
That's what I'm talking about, yeah.
Okay,
149 is where it starts. Do you have that, Ken?
Yes, so I'm looking at the 2012 plan. That's correct. That's what you guys were.
Right, right.
Let me see if I can share that.
I was gonna say, can you put it up on the screen?
Yeah. It's funny, so this past week I finally got remote access to the network. So I've been asking my colleagues literally every day, can you send me this file? No, that's the wrong file. I need it to be the updated one. So, but now I'm learning how to navigate this particular software, which is somewhat challenging, but I think I have something here. Okay. Let's open it here.
A quick question, Ed.
Yes,
Do we really have a tree warden in Southampton?
yes, we do.
We really do?
Yes.
It's Ron
Ron
Lauren.
Lauren.
Oh my goodness. Can you believe it?
Yeah. Actually, for the longest time, it was Garska. Ron's been our tree warden for the last couple of years.
Wow.
And he's been very busy, I might add, with all these storms.
Oh, God, yeah.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
In fact, we voted to actually increase the budget because, or the stipend, because the amount of work that he's had to do.
Mhm.
Yeah, we had to add $5,000 to it at the special town meeting for the amount of trees he had to take down in the last year.
Wow.
Okay, let's see. Let me share this now. Okay. So this is the goals and objectives. I don't know if there was any discussion of revisiting this through your conversations with Emily last year. Maybe any goal setting that you may have done, or even discussing the action plan and kind of the status of where the town is with regards to that.
I don't believe we did.
I
Am
don't
I
think
right,
so.
everybody? I don't recall
I don't think
specifically
so.
talking about our goals.
That would be a great exercise, though.
Yes.
Yeah, it's also yeah, a great exercise, very important, because obviously you want to re-examine whether or not the goals still exist, and the strategies are still you're still able to at least be in the process of achieving them, or identify a pathway of achieving those things. Okay, so I think for the next meeting, coming up with maybe in addition to a review of the document, which at this point, whether or not you want to go through each sections through this meeting to go line by line, or if it's a matter of doing homework and then providing any comments through review of those drafts, and then me or Eric or I presenting those comments at the following meeting and seeing where the committee stands with regards to everyone else's comments, and compiling those comments to see if there's either any consistency with considerations that the committee has to make. I mean, that's, I obviously we need to do and revisit these goals for this process. So maybe as we identify next steps, that's something that we're gonna do for the next meeting, or at least come up with a way to address them.
That sounds good to go over them between now and the next meeting.
Yeah.
There's one thing that comes to mind, though, as I look at the goals on section 8. Actually, that's what you have up there, right?
This is no, this is section 9.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you go back to 8, which is just be right there, yeah. I think they're great goals and great objectives, but I'm not so sure, and we've talked about this in the Master Plan Implementation Committee, are we current with how the people in our community think? Is this what everybody else agrees to? And I think the only way to do that is to integrate this into whatever kind of additional survey we choose to do, or engagement that we think about.
Or use the original survey to start the draft of it.
What's that, Ed?
Or use that original survey to start the draft of this.
You mean original back to 2012, or the one that was done last year?
The one that we did at the end of last year.
Okay, all right, well, that'd be good, yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
I remember Emily saying that she wasn't disappointed with the number of respondents that we got. So she was kind of satisfied with the main points that were made, and we could build on that to set our goals this time.
Okay.
I do remember her saying that also.
Yeah.
I think it was just the distribution wasn't as balanced as she would have wanted.
But do we know that? Are we just supposing that because people were saying that they weren't using the playgrounds or Labrie fields.
I think that was it.
Because we didn't ask for demographics. And so
Right.
we can't assume that they're like, I don't use Labrie fields and I have a young child.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
it doesn't.
I also think that certainly, I mean, I still think getting community input is very important, but you know, it's pretty clear that the town has recently supported water protection through Palmer Meadow purchase, the acres on Clearwater Woodland. There was a good attendance at the neighborhood project grant programs. So, I mean, I think that I don't want to have to add more work unnecessarily. There's certainly
Okay.
been a lot of work lately and a lot of public support for a lot of these goals. And these goals are pretty high level goals. Balance, you know, development with open space. I mean, it doesn't seem like, you know, I don't know that there would be objection to these goals. But I think it would be great. I mean, I would love to have like open space review committee have a meeting and kind of like work together on these, and also ask conservation possibly to just take a stab at it, and then you know, send off feedback over to Eric and Ken or something like that. It just seems like that would be a good exercise for the committees that are devoted to this purpose.
Okay. As long as everybody's in agreement that that we've done everything we can to get public input on these goals. That's fine. I think they're great.
I think before we pass them on to the other groups, let's refine the goals. Some of them are a bit outdated, and I think maybe we should take a first pass at them.
Okay. You
Can
mean
I agree. I agree.
I just asked a question because Ken gave me a bunch of files to look over regarding all this stuff, and one of the files is called Revised Goals, and it looks like for like the 2020 to 2027 OSRP update, and there's actually a fifth goal. Do you guys know about this? I don't know if this is something you talked about. The fifth goal is provide adequate recreational facilities to serve a variety of needs for all citizens.
that was something
Yes.
that drafted?
It
Yeah,
looks like
we
looks
did
like
it together.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Right, that was in kind of the report that Emily did based on that visioning session.
Right.
Right, it's there.
Was that in the same format as this, were there objectives and possibly timelines?
Uh,
No- Go ahead, Ed.
What I'm looking at is basically identical to what we're looking at, except it adds an objective to goal 1, and then it adds a new fifth goal, and that also has 2 objectives. I don't know if you guys have access to that. I just wanted to know if that was something
Yeah.
you
Mhm.
discussed.
Could you
Is
please
your
send
new-
that?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Let me send that. Okay.
Ken, in the folder that you sent me, the Southampton folder, it's in the meetings folder, is a Word document called Revised Goals and Objectives.
Objective. Okay.
And the meeting date is December 18th, if that helps you.
Let me send this, or let me just share it. Hopefully you can read this because I'm on my remote setting here. If not, I'll have to save and then reopen on another browser. Sure.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at.
Yeah. Can the committee see this, or let me zoom in?
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah.
Can you
That's
do a little
good.
bit? Yeah, better.
Good.
Perfect.
Okay.
Well, thanks, Eric.
So as Eric mentioned, there probably was a discussion as, Emily had drafted this. and maybe it's worthwhile to review in a cleaner way. We can obviously figure out how we're going to be formatting this into the final document, but maybe address any concerns that you're just revisiting this, might rejigger something in your memory as to, why you've considered looking at that further. So I guess what was added was this additional objective under goal 1, prioritize parcels for permanent protection based on natural resource protection and climate resilience.
And they actually changed objective 2 in the original plan was different. They changed it. It's changed to what it is now.
So this is changed.
Yes.
I'm just gonna make this another color then. Okay. Let me write a comment here. All right. And then it looks like goal 3, you removed the assurance for infrastructure is up to date and in good repair with regards to, I'm assuming related to the public water supply.
Wait.
Wait, hang on a second.
Goal 3. Protect water. Objective 1. Develop public outreach. No, that's different. Continuing public water supply. Yes. Okay.
Okay.
It's okay.
Okay. And then goals 4 and 5.
Mhm. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, that I think can cross off one aspect, unless the committee wants to revisit this in a future meeting. From that point, then we come up with the plan to address those goals and how to what the strategy should be. Between Eric, myself, and Emily, we can at least take a first stab at those strategies. They'd be similar to what is in the 2012 update. Then we can see where you are and with regards to how the town has progressed at trying to achieve that, and if not, or if it needs to be more, there needs to be a little more engagement with regards to that, then we can prioritize the strategies and maybe create some stronger language to kind of put the effort into trying to achieve those.
Yeah, I do think that it would be useful. I mean, I think Emily created these, and then I'm not really sure if the committee have a chance to kind of review these, add to, subtract, edit these goals.
I think we edited them at that December 18th meeting.
Okay, because it seems like like since the can you bring back goal number 2, Ken?
Sure.
Yeah, so protect Southampton's remaining agricultural lands, promote local farming, and create opportunities for residents to become involved in local agriculture. It doesn't seem like they're really, like, if the goal and in that develop a public outreach strategy to support agriculture activity, and that's it. So, I mean, since from 2012 to now, I mean, we've actually designated Southampton as a right to farm community. I just feel like there probably could be a little bit more that we could do to promote protection of agriculture. Other than just that one strategy.
Yes, so add another strategy number 2 or objective number 2.
Yeah. I mean, does everybody feel like comfortable with this list the way it is right now and feel like it's been reviewed and, you know, adequately to move forward from here?
No, I think we could strengthen it.
I think we could too. So I wonder whether we want to have a interim meeting on kind of like for the purpose of reviewing these goals. I think these goals are very, very important. I mean, the plan, you know, will be based on these. I just feel like I would like to have an opportunity to
Mhm.
kind of make sure that the objectives, the things underneath it match the ones and they're realistic and, you know, that they're robust enough to relate to the goals themselves.
Can you email this to us? Because I'm going through my notes and I do not have a copy of this.
Yes, I will.
I don't either. I'd love to have a copy.
No, yeah, I don't have it in this format. I have the meeting notes that I'm using.
I don't
This is better.
Yeah, and this way, you know, if the committee wants to share this with other members of
Mhm.
the commission, the Conservation Commission, or within yourself, you know, you can, whether or not that's with Eric and I at a future meeting, or that's between all of you, figure out, you know, how to refine this and maybe come up with additional objectives that, you know, capture what it is you really want to accomplish. Okay. So I'll go ahead and send that to Ed and
Okay,
the committee.
thank you.
So yeah, I mean, that was, let's bring that other document back up. So with section 9 being the, let's see, the 7-year plan. You know, this is typical for most plans where you have you repeat your goals and objectives, and then you come up with the strategies, the responsible party, the resources, and, you know, you provide a goal for how to complete that. These are probably things that we will want to review, and maybe they remain on this list, and, you know, we create some, you know, either new way to achieve these goals through these strategies and maybe restate them in a certain way. I think we probably can use and maybe share this with the board, or you have access to this with the previous update. But this is usually where you know, PVPC would figure out the strategies on how to accomplish that, share that with you, and see, you know, and talk through them and see how, you know, adoptable that process could be for the town. And that's what I imagine a future conversation would be.
I do have a question here. Is there any update? I mean, do we have information on each of these strategies as to whether or not these objectives were accomplished?
Well, I know we have a relationship with a land trust, that's Kestrel,
Yeah,
and it's a pretty strong relationship. So that's strategy 2 under whatever number that objective is.
yeah, but I'm looking at, you know, goal 1, identify and preserve. It sounds very redundant. You know, what we're talking about now is what they identified then as a goal. And I guess my question is, from then to now, what progress have we made? That's all.
I think that's what we need to do between now and the next
Yes,
meeting.
yeah.
We need to really look at this carefully and go to other committees if necessary, ask questions and bring the update.
Because then, yeah, then we can move it ahead. If we've done some things, you can build on that.
Yeah. I think that before the Open Space Review Committee came into being a year and a half ago or so, you know, the Concom was the committee really that was the driver of this. And I don't know whether they ever had a committee meeting after this was created to review the plan, whether or not the target dates were met and, you know, to do an evaluation interim. I don't know. Not in the time that I was liaison to the board, which has only been the last 3 years.
Yeah, not since last 2 Octobers ago when I was on it, since I've been on.
Yeah. So it's
Okay.
not uncommon, unfortunately, to go ahead and put this together with timetables and so forth and not have it be reviewed again. But that being said, I really do think there's been a lot of progress.
Mhm.
It looks it from some of the ones I'm seeing on here.
Yeah. But that would be a good exercise to review in conjunction with putting together or suggesting additional strategies.
Yes.
So maybe for the next meeting, whether or not you want to convene with Eric and I, you know, revisit the goals and objectives, and I will share that document with Ed, and then maybe take a look at your 2012 update and see where the town has been able to accomplish, you know, these strategies, and see where they are and what the status of those strategies are. And then from there, we can create the 7-year plan based on whether or not these strategies still need to remain in the plan or need to be refined in a way that, you know, creates a clear process for the various parties that would be responsible for implementation.
Makes sense.
So I don't know if there's any other, at least, conversations to have this evening. You know, our marching orders, I think, for the next meeting where we'll be present is to provide you, prior to that meeting, a draft of sections 1 through 4, and hopefully use that time to finalize those sections. And then section 5, and I think, Cindy, did you mention something about revisiting section 5 as your internal group with Conservation Commission?
And the more I look at it, I think, if my memory serves me right, I think section 5 may be a lot of technical information that Emily might have recommended we get from the assessor's office.
Yeah, there's going to be some ground truthing of that data from the assessor's office to, you know, ensure
Right.
that the amount of acreages for those specific protected lands are going to be present in this document.
Okay.
I agree with you, Ed. I think that's what you said to us before, you know, how much APR land do we have? How much CR land do we have? How much in chapter, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
But we will still look at this. We are looking at this in the Open Space Committee.
Okay.
And the good news is it has increased since
Yes,
2012.
absolutely.
It is, there, you know, this is somewhat out of date in the sense that there's been
Yes.
new lands that's been conserved.
Absolutely.
So April's our representative from open space, from assessors to open space review committee. I wonder if she and folks from assessors would be able to work on that.
Well, Ed, I talked to Martha maybe 2 weeks ago and asked her for a list of the current 61, 61A, 61B, and she said, "Oh, I've been putting that together." I can't remember who asked me for it, and so I
It was
kind of
me.
assumed it was you.
Yeah.
So I suspect she's working on that.
Yeah, I'll shoot her another reminder.
Okay.
Good.
Great.
Does the group, either in open space conservation or this group, want to plan a meeting to review the goals and objectives and strategies? Or how do you want to move forward with that?
Yeah, we can do that.
I'm trying to look at my calendar, see what we scheduled for the next open space committee meeting. Anybody remember?
Yeah, the first week, I think in June. Does 6th ring a bell or 4th or something?
The 6th is a Saturday, so
Fourth?
I don't have my book with me right now, but I
Yeah.
thought it was like the 4th.
Maybe the,
I think you're right. I think it's the 4th. And I'm going to look for my notes here.
yeah, I think it's the fourth.
Yes, you're right. It's 4th at 6 o'clock. Yeah. That's the next open space committee meeting. We can definitely put that on the agenda, and I will let the Conservation Commission know in case anybody wishes to contribute to it.
Okay.
Okay, that'll definitely be on the agenda. And then as far as, excuse me, just one more thing. Ken, you said maybe 1 or 2 additional questions could go on that survey that the Master Plan Implementation Committee is doing. So I know that meeting is next Tuesday night, right?
Yeah, is it Tuesday or Wednesday?
No, select board's Tuesday. I don't. Right?
Oh, so probably Wednesday.
It's probably Wednesday. I'm sorry, I didn't put it in my calendar here.
Yeah, I got an email from Chris, and I thought it was Tuesday, but she confirmed it was Wednesday.
Okay,
Yeah, it's-
Wednesday, because select board's Tuesday, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so we should, Ken, if you can think about those questions, because you've got the draft survey, and I'm going to be posting that, emailing that out because of the meeting. She just asked me to do that this evening. So can you be looking at those questions and thinking about ways to get very specific questions regarding this open space and recreation plan to see whether we need to strengthen that somehow?
Sure, and I think if the goal of the committee at the time when you initially did your survey, I don't know if there were 1 or 2 questions that you think captures the essence of what you want to measure. And I'll have a conversation with Emily too.
Good, okay.
Yeah, and maybe just some insight from you, Cindy, that would be helpful.
Okay, we'll work on that, and I'll talk to Chris about it too. Okay.
Yeah, and maybe one of those questions might be something like, how important are, facilities for young children, such as, playgrounds or athletic activities, important to you?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. If anybody else wants to contribute, can email me or Ken or Chris Fowles. Francine's on that committee too. Just give us your thoughts.
And then one other thing while Ken's working on this, Brittany, you were working on section 4, right?
Correct.
Would you please send me what you have that you drafted up, and I'll send that along to Ken so he's got it?
I certainly will.
Thank you. And I can't remember if, Francine, you sent me the tables out of the section you were working on.
Yeah, but there's more data to be gathered. And I guess my question to Ken is, depending upon the source that you go to, you get a different answer for the same question.
Yeah, I think and this happened, Francine, with even on the master plan implementation committee when we were identifying that supplemental information in the survey,
Yeah.
where you had a different number than I did based on you went exactly to the town clerk to get that census number. But we at PVPC obviously have a data section, and I utilize it's usually census data or American Community Survey data that would just kind of give a baseline. I think the presentation of data, whether or not the committee feels that when they review, the first parts of the plan, that there's another data set that we should be looking at, then we'll make sure that we get that data.
I would agree.
I think the important thing is that you identify the source. I
Right.
mean, right now, if you look at census data, it's going to be over 10 years old. So I think that if you have an opportunity to have a tighter data set, then you should go with that. But you might not be able to. You might have to go with more regional or different. But you just have to.
Yeah.
I think it's important to identify it because people are going to question it.
Of course.
I think one of the disappointing things in most instances as I started to try and track this down is a lot was only up to 2017. You know, there were a few 2018s, no 2019s. So, I mean, we're already 2 or 3 years behind as we're preparing this document.
Yeah, but it's not surprising. I mean, 2019 was literally like.
No, I understand, but, you know, at least we'd have 2008, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to find.
Yeah.
So I would be happy if there were another source and you know, someone else, if it's easier access for you and it's more consistent, that would be fine.
Yeah, we definitely, cite any sort of table that we're going to be presenting.
Mhm.
And as I mentioned, the American Community Survey does a pretty decent job of, they use estimates. But, it's presented in that fashion. And, if the committee wants to go look at 2010 census data, then we'll do that. If we have local data within, the various aspects of your town government that we can gather, we'll do that. But, I think that as long as we are citing where we're getting this data from and how we can explain, I think that should cover, the consistency of the plan. So
I just think that the census data at this point would be too far back.
yeah,
And I think the data is what's going to generate for us money. So I think that we should do what we can to make it as accurate as possible. I mean, we have a huge increase in senior population in town. So I just think that where our goals, we have one that focuses on seniors. I just think that we should try, especially with small town, there's advantages and disadvantages. The percentages will be off because it's so small, but on the other side, you can actually get tighter numbers because of the smallness of the town.
yeah.
So, Ed, isn't Paul Fregal on this committee also?
Yes, he is.
We could make it tonight? Because in section 3, we, do have reference to the bike path being a goal, very big. And he's still the chair of that committee, isn't he, at this
Yes,
point?
he is.
So it'd be good if he could just put the update. I think I know the answer, but I think it should come directly from him. So what's going on with the developing of the Greenway?
I'll send that section to him to go through.
Yeah, it's just one paragraph, but it should be updated. So there are some sections, I mean, I've been working with Francine on section 3. There are some things that I can add to it. I did speak to, there was a section in here about how we have, 30-something miles of old roads in our town. I talked to Randall. He doesn't know where those old roads are. So I brought a map from 1960 over to Mr. Hendrick, Ted Hendrick, and he's kind of gotten interested in sort of writing all over it and remembering the old roads. It's a nice exercise for Mr. Hendrick.
So Cindy, what's the definition of an old road? Anything over 80 or 90, or what makes an old road versus a new road?
Well, that's a good question. I thought of an old road is a road that isn't there anymore. It was a road.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, okay.
But I don't know. Am I wrong? I'm probably wrong. What do you call an old road?
Well, it's a term that I've probably never really heard referenced before.
Well, it's in here.
I've heard of county roads, I've heard of paper streets and all kinds of other stuff, but I've really never heard of anything referred to, oh, that's an old road.
Oh, you know what? I apologize. I'm reading the section right now. there are over 31 miles of abandoned, not old, abandoned roads and trails. Sorry, wrong word.
Okay.
But it does say the network of unofficial trails and old roads, that's in there too, offer hikers, mountain bikers, skiers, horseback riders, blah, 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 all these, recreational opportunities. We have to be concerned for the fact that some of those old/abandoned roads are actually on private property.
Right.
I know Amarla is concerned about that we're identifying things that aren't even, they're on private property. We don't have permission to be on there. So we don't want to, bring too much of attention to that. But I did talk about this to Randall. Randall was very excited. He'd like to know where these, quote, old or abandoned roads are. And so I'm going to try to connect Randall and Ted Hendrick on that, just for interest's sake, if anything else.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's funny because behind our house is a pathway. I just cross-country ski, hike, and take the dogs back there, and it's always in the neighborhood referred to as the telephone road.
Is there a telephone pole on it, or
Not anymore.
is there an easement, or there was, or something? Isn't that funny?
Yeah, I don't know the history, but it definitely is a division of landowners. The telephone road, like the land behind ends at the telephone road, and another parcel is at the other side of the telephone roads. I don't know. I'll have to look into it.
And we have Little Mountain Road above our property. Janet, this is Janet. I can't, for some reason, I can't see anything anymore, but yeah, there's Little Mountain Road, which is considered an abandoned road.
Yep. And there's also roads, I had a conversation with Richard Lohr, Mr. Lohr, on Upper Wolcott, and he remembers there's roads that go through his property. That are no longer there. So I guess they're old abandoned roads. So it's from just a historic standpoint, we should be capturing some of that just out of interest,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Wonder if Bob Koza would have anything on that.
I don't know. He's very knowledgeable about history, but he's not a native to the town. I don't believe, is he?
No, he's not.
It's good to get it from people who are multi-generational.
Yeah.
Richard Frary might offer some information.
Yeah, I mean, we should get it fast from Mr. Frary.
Yeah, he's a very smart man.
So I guess, would you like us to be at the next meeting, or did you want to convene the other commissions?
Which meeting are you talking about?
The
Open Space?
The June 4th meeting?
The Open Space Committee?
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, this is all part of your process for writing this open space and recreation plan, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sure. I'll include you in the email.
Okay.
I guess the only concern is we want to be sure that we're not running out of
Time.
on this, out of Ken's time.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you're tracking it. Is there sufficient time, Ken, to do
There's
that?
sufficient time because it's a new contract. And at least for the time being, it's still in the initial phase, and I can charge an hour to attend, hour and a half, depending on what your agenda looks like, and maybe just chime in and come in and observe.
Yeah, either that or maybe they can like front load that portion or something, so you only have to join them for half an hour or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that'd be
Good
fine.
idea. That's a good idea, Ed.
Okay, it'll be a Zoom meeting, Ken, obviously. We've been using the town account. Shall we do that, Ed? Should we use the town account for that meeting? Or
Yeah,
should
you
we
can.
use?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
fine.
All right, I'll be in touch with you on that.
And do we want to try to set another date for this group for a meeting?
Yes.
Yes.
Want to try for like June 11th?
What day of the week is that?
Thursday.
Okay.
I mean, that's 3 weeks away. Is that, I mean, I guess concern of our time limitations here until we hear about the extension.
But we want to meet after the
After,
June 4th
Right.
exercise, right?
yep.
Or are you thinking about advancing other things before then? That's my dog.
Okay. You got to pick it up. I want to see it.
Oh, this is the big
The
one.
old one. Oh, okay.
That's a good size one, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the other opportunity, if we had anything to discuss, we could try Thursday, the 28th.
You mean the 28th of May?
Yeah,
Oh, sorry.
which was next week, but yeah, I don't know if we'll have enough really to go back over by then, or if we want
All right.
really better off
Okay.
waiting for that input from either Concom or Open Space.
Whatever you decide.
I think the 11th, I mean, if he's going to be busy writing up these sections and get section 4, and we're going to be reviewing the
Okay.
section 9. What do you think, Ken?
I think, if there is a product that we can share at the Open Space Committee, at your standing meeting on the 4th, and I don't know, I'm just talking, trying to figure the timelines out with regards to, yeah, because actually, I think the 11th probably makes the most sense due to the fact that the Open Space Committee will be using the time on the 4th to determine the goals. But obviously, I would be sharing with you a draft prior to that date. And probably this is going to be on one of the priorities at the moment. So, I think there should be an expectation to see something probably on the 4th.
Okay, so you said prior to that date, you mean you're going to do a draft of what, section 7 and 8?
No,
I mean 8 and 9?
1 through 4, because I think,
1 through 4.
yeah,
Oh,
you're
1.
using 8 and 9 as an exercise.
Okay.
Your Open Space Committee meeting on the 4th.
Okay.
Eric, I think you wanted to say something? No? Okay.
Okay, so you're going to work on sections 1 through 4 draft. And then on June 4th, we're going to utilize sections 8 and 9, review those with the Open Space Committee, and I'm going to let Concom know. I don't know if they can make it, or I don't know. And then you'll come to that meeting, and we'll just really try to jam out a good outcome out of that meeting, and then you'll have something to go with to rewrite those 2 sections. Does that sound right for everybody?
Yeah.
And then when we convene again on the 11th, this group, we've got something solid to work with.
Yeah, something solid to work with, and hopefully maybe a status on the information that you may be seeking with regards to section 5, which is
Okay. And then Ed, you're going to circle around with Martha Leamy and let her get back to you and me about
Yes.
what she's coming up with. So we'll have that data. Right?
Right.
Can we decide on a time? I mean, June 4th is 6. I remember that. What about the 11th? Is it 5:30 or 6?
Any of those times are fine with me.
Me too.
What's good? Is it hard for you, Rini, to get here for 5:30?
No, 5:30 or 6 works. Earlier than that is a problem.
Okay.
So whatever works. Ed, is it better for you for 5:30 so you can get home every once in a while?
Home, where's that? No, whatever the group, pleases, whatever your pleasure is, I don't know if we tried 6, if it might get some of the members like
Like Paul?
Mark or Paul to be able to attend.
Yeah.
Is this a problem for them because they both, like Barini has a full-time job?
I mean, depending on what they're doing or whatever, it's possible.
Okay.
Do you want to check with them and get back to us if it's 6 o'clock, if they can join us then?
I can do that.
You open to that, everybody?
Yeah,
5:30 or 6, depending upon their availability.
sounds good.
Other time is good.
Okay, sounds good.
Good.
We got a plan.
Good.
Okay.
Everybody all set?
Yep.
Set.
Thanks, everybody. Good night.
Thank you.
Somebody want to make a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Okay, second. Anybody?
I'll second.
Okay. And now we got to do roll call because we're on Zoom. So.
Tishman, I.
Yep.
All right, aye.
Janet Brown, aye.
Okay. I vote aye.
Aye.
Anybody we missed?
Brittany, did you speak?
I did.
Aye.
I thought I did.
Okay.
I think we got everybody. Great. Thank you so much, everyone.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good evening.
Good
night.
night. Take
Aye.
care.
Meet you guys.
Thanks, Ken. Nice meeting you, Eric.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good.